Welcome into CBS Sports HQ, brought to you by FanDuel. Amanda Guerra, Jacqueline D'Agostino, Kyle Long. I almost called you Kyle Pitts. Sorry about that.
He has more catches than Kyle Pitts.
Wow. Okay. It is Tuesday. That means it is time for Pete Prisco's Power Rankings. And I'm not sure if Kyle just compared Jaden Daniels to Patrick Mahomes. However,
I'm just saying there's a lot of new stuff happening in the league.
There you go.
Conversations revolving around these quarterbacks.
There you go. Remember how I used to do this to Brady Quinn all the time? We have our headline, Kyle Pitts.
There we go.
Oh, he just called you Kyle Pitts.
That's what I said. I jokingly said that. Kyle Pitts says Jaden Daniels is next Mahomes.
That's, that's unfair. That's unfair.
He might be.
Also, though,
he might be.
Trevor Lawrence was called a generational talent at 1.2.
You know, and it's not really looking that way through 4 years. Our guy T-Law, Pete.
Your guy T-Law.
That's what we love to call him, T-Law. Let's get back to those power rankings presented by FanDuel. We're seeing how things are shaking out. Biggest riser in Pete's power rankings, that would belong to the Commanders, up 9 spots because, as mentioned, Jaden Daniels looks like the real deal. The Eagles, the biggest faller, they're falling 9 spots, losing by double digits to the Bucks. Woof, only 2 undefeated teams that are left. That is the Chiefs and the Vikings, and you see them there. The Chiefs at number 1 and the Vikings at number 2. So let's get into the power rankings and just dissect this thing. We have the Chiefs. They're still up there at number 1. They're 4-0. Yeah, we're going to slice it up. Not really looking like the Chiefs that we're used to seeing, but they still find a way to win. We saw vintage-ish like Travis Kelce. But, Pete, the injuries are just rolling in on offense, and there might be a conversation. Why are they still at 1 if they're not looking their best?
That guy on the wall behind you. Look, and I told him this morning when we were doing the podcast. I said, if your life depended on it and you were playing the Vikings at a neutral field against the Chiefs, you would take the Chiefs. And you disputed that.
Yeah, I said I'd take the Vikings.
I also said like 5 seconds ago I would take the Vikings.
I said I would take the Chiefs.
Of course you would, because you're smart and you want to survive.
Thank you. I'm smart. Pete said I'm smart, you guys. I'm going to remember that on this day.
And the bottom line is Patrick Mahomes still can do the things. And everybody went into last week saying he's a game manager. He doesn't do it. Then he hits the shot down the field to Worthy for a big play. He's still capable of doing it. They got Travis Kelce going. You know, it's been a little while for all his side stuff that he did in the offseason. He's back to being Travis Kelce. Don't worry about the Chiefs. No, the Rashee Rice injury is a factor.
Brutal.
No question about that.
Who's he going to throw the ball to now?
Well, we
could find out by week's end. It could be somebody brand new. But at the end of the day,
they might go get a guy.
They got guys who know how to do this thing.
Yeah, I mean, they have people on that roster. Juju Smith-Schuster's done it before. You know, they got to get Sky Moore going a little bit. But as long as Kelce is being Kelce, he'll open up everybody else, and Worthy has that speed.
Yeah, I mean, you guys say this isn't the way the Chiefs have looked, but I would argue that this is how the Chiefs have looked. I mean,
how they looked at the beginning of last season.
They find ways to win football games. You know, they've got some guys in the training room right now, and with Rashee Rice being out, that's really the one that sticks out to me the most, more than anybody else, because he has been Patrick's favorite target. There's so many different things that Patrick can get done with Rice, whether it's underneath, over the top. You can see Rashee Rice do everything, but now there's that void in the offense. What are we going to do? The running back position, there's a question mark there as well. So who's going to get the lion's share of carries for the Chiefs too?
Andy Reid is one of the most creative offensive play callers in this league. You know, you played for him. And they will get creative with Worthy. They will start using him in ways like Tyreek Hill is used with that speed to get him the ball on bubble screens, get him on reverses. He will become a big focal point of what they do.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. But one thing that separates Worthy and Tyreek Hill is as fast as anybody, but he can throw the brakes on like nobody's business. He can stop. He can take the top off a defense, threaten downtown, and shut it down early. I don't know if Worthy has that kind of stop explosion that Tyreek has.
We'll find out.
Which makes him so dangerous. But we will.
Nobody's Tyreek Hill, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Tyreek Hill's not doing well in fantasy, so that's another discussion there.
Come on back to Kansas City, Tyreek.
Yeah, that would be better.
Right now.
Let me ask you this, Pete, though. So the Vikings are coming in at number 2. What would it take for them to be number 1? Like, do the Chiefs have to lose a game?
Probably. Yeah, I mean, you've earned the right to be in the top spot. They're the best team, and they have the best quarterback, and so they stay in the top spot.
So the Vikings stay at 2?
Yeah, the Vikings will stay at 2. I'm impressed with what the Vikings have done. No doubt about it. I love what Kevin O'Connell has done. I love what Brian Flores has done with the defense. And Sam Darnold right now would be my MVP. But there were glimpses of Sam Darnold moments in the Packers game. He turned it over. He had an interception. Then he fumbled, led to points. They were back in the game. And the greatest thing, I said this earlier, the greatest thing about Kevin O'Connell is Sam Darnold in that moment He called 6 out of 7 pass plays.
Aggressive.
Usually when a quarterback turns it over, the coach starts playing scared. He did. He's called 6 out of 7 pass plays. They went down and got a field goal, made it a 9-point game, game over. That's why Kevin O'Connell's having so much success right now.
Yeah, the same thing you said about the Chiefs with their creativity with Coach Reed. Kevin O'Connell gives confidence to his group, and the most of which is Sam Darnold. The guy just looks so confident. To your point, they didn't shut down that offense. They didn't say we're just going to hand it off. They let Sam Darnold go back out there, get his confidence back up. And the way this team is playing, they haven't trailed for 1 minute in the last 3 games. And it's not like they're playing a bunch of cupcakes. They're beating some good football teams. Yeah, they beat the Giants early, but they've beat some real good football teams. So in my opinion, the Minnesota Vikings have earned the top spot in the power rankings. That's my big argument from this morning. But I understand why you have the Chiefs there. You got to keep them at the top until somebody beats them. But if I'm just going power rankings, I got to have the Vikings at the top. Offense, defense, coaches, both sides of the football, they've been dominant.
Sam
Do you
Darnold,
feel like they're going to
Patrick
fall off at
Mahomes.
some point? Because you mentioned, like, this sort of reminds me of like the whole Kevin Stefanski from last season, the way you're talking about O'Connell.
No, I worry about Sam Darnold.
That's what I mean.
Look, before this season, he didn't complete 60% of his passes for his career. That's like the Mendoza line in baseball. It's horrible. And now all of a sudden he's completing 68% of his passes. Does it go bad? You know, they play a good defense this week. They play the Jets. And that's going to be a tough challenge. We'll see how he plays in that game. But that's why those...
You are who you are?
Usually you are. And you look at those... By the way, you look at those odds. The way it is right now, he's probably the MVP. Why is he so far down that list? Because I think everybody out there is saying at some point he might become Sam Darnold.
So, I mean, going into this season, if we told you that Sam Darnold was going to be in the MVP conversation, you would have said, hey, no way. Jaden Daniels, though, a little bit of a different conversation when it comes to how he's performing because, Pete, this is a guy that you were very high on from the jump. The Commanders look pretty legit, blowing out the Cardinals. Kyle, is it time that we take this team and consider them a contender, no question?
I wouldn't say no question. Okay. They're absolutely on the cusp of being real contenders, and we got to take the Commanders seriously. Obviously, everything they're doing on the offensive side of the ball is fantastic. They are scoring. They are successful on drives at a historic rate, better than the greatest show on turf, St. Louis Rams. You know, you look at these numbers, and it's true. Jaden Daniels has these guys on fire. My real question is the defense going to be able to hold on when they get into some of these big matchups? The big question mark at the beginning of the year, though, was the offensive line in Washington, but they found a way to come together, and they've got some good players. They've got some guys that came in from other teams. I think about Andrew Wiley and Nick Allegretti. They've been able to do the things with that offensive line that I thought they couldn't. That's protect their rookie quarterback, have him feeling comfortable, and they're running the ball with efficiency as well, Pete.
A quarterback cures your ills. I mean, a bad offensive line play is exposed by bad quarterback play, and Jaden Daniels is playing great. He makes it look easy. The ball gets out of his hands. It's on target. It's accurate. He's got a good arm. He's willing to get outside the pocket.
He's having fun.
And he's enjoying it, and he works at it. He's the first guy in and the last guy out. This guy was made to play quarterback in the National Football League, and everybody said he's too skinny, he's too this. No, you learn how to slide. You're smart. He keeps his head up. When there are certain quarterbacks, C.J. Stroud does it too. When these guys get outside the pocket, they keep their head up to make plays. There are some guys like Trevor Lawrence who don't do that, and that's a problem. And he needs to continue to do what he does. That offensive line, they have a veteran mismatch of guys there. Biadasz at center, Allegretti, he's a fighter, he's a tough guy. I mean, Paisan, he brings that Paisan passion. I mean, you look at that line, it shouldn't be as good as it is and as good as they're playing, but in large part because the Jaden Daniels makes them better.
Two of those guys with Allegretti and Wiley, they were in Kansas City. Both of those dudes are Super Bowl champs. They had to protect Patrick Mahomes. They understand how important the quarterback position is to the success of the team. And I'd imagine, I texted these guys, what's the deal? They say, this kid is really good. I mean, it was a simple response, but it tells me everything I have to know. They believe in Jaden Daniels. It's not a fluke. They've started off hot because the kid can play.
And they're contenders.
They're contenders, and right now it looks like it's going to be between them and the Cowboys for the NFC East.
Yeah, and I picked the Cowboys before the season. If I could change it, I'd take Washington, because, in large part, because I think their schedule is really soft, too.
Speaking of the NFC East, the team we're not talking about anymore, a team that was considered Super Bowl contenders at the beginning of the season, the Eagles, they are your biggest fallers, down 9 spots to number 16. Nothing is going right for this team, Pete. I mean, can you pinpoint it on one thing? Because it seems like those issues, it's not even the same issues that it was at the end of the season. It's just more different.
When a coach gets rid of 2 coordinators and things don't change, they only get worse, and he wants to, clearly he blamed the coordinators from last year. Well, now the finger goes right at him. It's all on the head coach. Sirianni's to blame for this right now, and he's got to take responsibility for it. I mean, Devin White didn't play, personal reasons. The word was he didn't want to play special teams. Think about that. Devontae Smith out, A.J. Brown. They were limited last week. Then Lane Johnson, the biggest absence of all of them.
The biggest.
He makes that offense go. But they were lifeless. They were lifeless, and they weren't. It wasn't just the bad offense. It was on the other side of the ball too. They went to New Orleans the week before, and they were lively on defense. Carter was all over the place. They were outstanding that day on defense. The other day, they looked like they were playing an exhibition game. And they get caught in that a lot, which is not a good look for the head coach. I'm concerned about this team. I'm concerned about the head coach. And then you really want to point the finger back at somebody else too? Let's point it at the quarterback, because the quarterback is not playing well. The offensive line's been a problem. He didn't have his weapons, but he's not playing well either. He's turned the ball over more than anybody over the course of the last 2 seasons. So I think there's great concern with him as well.
No quarterback likes to be under pressure. No quarterback likes to be under pressure less than Jalen Hurts in the National Football League. Turns the ball over at a historic rate over the last 2 years. Nobody does it more. But when I think about the Lane Johnson absence, people always talk about the blind side, the left tackle, what the quarterback can't see. That's the most important thing. I'm looking at Danny Cannell in the back of the studio. Just nod if you agree. When you can see your tackle getting beat, it affects you. So when Lane Johnson's off the field, that's right there in Jalen Hurts' vision. The whole process gets sped up. You get off your mark, and you're never comfortable. There's a reason having a Hall of Famer at the offensive tackle position makes everybody's job a lot easier.
He hasn't looked comfortable for most of the season. Really quickly, we do have some news also out of the NFC East, this having to do with the Dallas Cowboys. Tank Lawrence, DeMarcus Lawrence, going to be on IR now, dealing with a foot injury. That is the latest from our lead NFL insider, Jonathan Jones. So that means he's going to be out for at least 4 games. They're going up against the Steelers. There's also some concern with Micah Parsons right now. I mean, Pete, none of this is good news for the Cowboys.
Well, when you have your 2 best pass rushers and they both might be out of the game, it's always a concern. So, look, they could get by without Lawrence. He's a good player, but he's not exactly an explosive, dynamic edge rusher. If Micah Parsons isn't on the field, it changes the whole way they play defense. And they've been run on a lot, and that's always a concern if you can't stop the run and you can't rush the pass, so they're going to have problems.
Yeah, you want these alphas on the field for you, and unfortunately for the Cowboys, they can't pick up their dribble off that win last week, which wasn't really inspiring, I would say. But I really like Overshown in the middle of the field for that defense for the Cowboys.
Mozzie Smith showed up last week.
He's going to have to step up big time. And when you're playing against Justin Fields and the Steelers team, it's the off-schedule plays. It's the physical mismatch of having a quarterback that's actually 6'4", 235, and runs like a deer. So who's going to be the dude that steps up for this team in a physical way? That'll answer that question.
Yeah, it's a high ankle sprain is what we're hearing for Micah. A timetable on him is TBD. Let's talk about the Jags, because, well, congratulations to the Panthers, because they're no longer in that bottom spot on your power rankings.
Have at it,
it belongs to the Jags. I needed that. I needed that nice support from Amanda.
I'm here for you.
Oh my God, Pete. This is abysmal. There's still the only winless team in the NFL. I don't know what's going on here. And you know what's interesting? Doug Peterson seemed really offended when people were asking him, like, oh, that's a strange question about my job. Is it a strange question? Because I don't think it is.
And that question wasn't the one that bothered everybody else up there. It was the one where he kind of threw his players under the bus, where he said, we coach them. It's a two-way street. The players got to play too. And that's a terrible look for a head coach. It's a bad situation. You could start talking about the #1 overall pick. They mess that up too if they do get it, because they have no idea what they're doing. They need entire change in the front office. Trent Baalke, he's lasted through so many things, and he always finds a way to save himself. Well, the bottom line is that roster isn't good enough, and they've made a lot of bad draft picks, and they've made a lot of bad signings. They paid a lot of money for Eric Armstead to go play defensive end because he wants to play there. He's been a 3 technique his entire career, but he plays defensive end. So I have no idea what they're doing. It's a mess, and the quarterback's not playing well. The quarterback needs to pick up his play. We talked about it this morning. His long stride or his mechanics are bad. He's pressing too much. And I didn't bring this up today, but one of the things they talked all offseason about, can't turn the ball over, can't turn the ball over, can't turn the ball over. Well, he's not turning the ball over because he's playing, tight and not loose. And I think that's a big problem for him.
He's throwing so inaccurately that he's missing interceptions at this point. He's not just missing his receiver, but the DB doesn't have a chance to get it. I think me and Mike Renner were talking about this on Pushing the Pile. He makes the right reads. He looks comfortable. He looks to be there from a mental standpoint, but he's not making his throws. And when you're inaccurate as a quarterback, your offense can't work.
Pressing. He's pressing.
he's pushing.
And Pete, just to quickly follow off of, Doug Peterson kind of throwing his players under the bus. If you are Trevor Lawrence, where we know he can play fast, he can play loose, we saw it in 2022 against the Chargers in that wild card game. What does that do to your psyche? Because you're playing not good, and then you're hearing your head coach saying, essentially throwing you under the bus out to the public.
Yeah, it's not a good look for the head coach. And I said this last night. I was doing the radio show in Jacksonville, and I said, here's two words nobody in Jacksonville wants to hear. Carson Wentz. Remember, Doug Peterson kind of went through the same type of situation with Carson Wentz, and he kind of turned his back on him, and they had a fractured relationship. I'm worried about the relationship between the quarterback and the head coach. The head coach and the GM, that relationship, I think that's done anyway. I think it's a mess. I think they need to start all over again and get rid of everybody.
Okay, well, we'll see how that goes.
Unless they rally.
I mean, it's going to be a good question how long Trevor Lawrence and Doug Peterson stay together if things keep going the way they are. Kyle pushing the pile. What have you guys got going on? Pete was on today?
Yeah, Peter
Prisco.
Pumpkin Eater. Yeah. Happy October, Peter.
There you go. Going through the power rankings. We'll see how long Pete defends the Chiefs being a number one. Not
number
much of
one.
an argument,
Patrick
but I
Mahomes.
get it, though.